Imagine someone reaching into their change jar, ready to roll up a handful of pennies, not knowing that one of them carried a mistake so rare, so bizarre, that collectors would later fight over it like buried treasure. This wasn't just any penny. It was a 1950 Lincoln cent from the Denver Mint, with a mysterious writ mark that never should have existed. At first glance, it looks like a normal wheat penny. Brown copper, honest wear, the kind you've seen 1,000 times in pocket change. But here's the twist. A tiny, almost ghost-like engraving writ appeared on certain 1950 D cents. Some say it was the work of a mint worker's secret test. Others whisper it was a die clash with experimental lettering. To this day, no one can explain why it's there. And because of that mystery, the value skyrocketed. Collectors were stunned when the first one surfaced at auction. At first, nobody believed it was real. Dealers lined up, magnifiers in hand, arguing over every scratch, every shadow of the letters. And then it happened. The hammer dropped. The bidding war shot past 6 figures, then 7. That 1 cent sold for nearly $1.7 million. More writ pennies started to appear, just a handful surfacing from shoeboxes, cigar tins, even inside a child's piggy bank that had been sitting untouched for 50 years. Each discovery sent shockwaves through the hobby. Stories spread of people finding one in an old coffee can, rushing to a dealer, and walking out with a life-changing check. Why so valuable? Because this wasn't a normal error. This wasn't a double die or a clipped planchet. This was something darker, stranger. The kind of mint anomaly that feels like it wasn't meant to be found. Experts still debate how the writ got stamped into the coin. Some claim it's a private engraving that fooled collectors, but the metal flow, the die pressure, the unmistakable signs point to a genuine mint error. And genuine mint errors, especially unexplainable ones, can rewrite the rules of collecting. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Every major auction house keeps a slot open, just in case one surfaces. And every time it does, the headlines follow. Ordinary penny brings $1 million payday. The writ mark is tiny, faint, easy to dismiss as a scratch or random gouge. You'll find it tucked beneath Lincoln's bust, just below the date, curving upward like it doesn't belong. Most people look right past it, and that's why so many slipped into circulation unnoticed. And condition matters. A beat-up coin might still fetch tens of thousands, but the sharpest examples, the ones with that ghostly writ still visible, are the ones breaking records. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector found his in a roll of pennies he bought at the bank for just 50 cents. And in every case, disbelief was the first reaction. This can't be real, but it was. The 1950 D writ penny doesn't announce itself with shine or beauty. It looks ordinary, average, the kind of penny you might leave on the counter as change. But that's what makes it so dangerous to ignore. Because hidden in its copper skin is the power to change someone's life forever. So how do you know if you've got one? Look closely at your 1950 Denver cents. Flip them under good light. Just beneath the date, search for letters that seem out of place. Not a scratch, not a dent, but something deliberate. T. If you see it, don't spend it. Don't clean it. Don't toss it back into the jar. Because you might be holding a coin worth more than $1.7 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine this. A coin minted in the early 1950s, at a time when America was rebuilding after war, when pennies clinked in every soda machine and candy counter. Millions upon millions rolled out of the Denver Mint, ordinary, forgotten, spent without a second thought. But hidden among them, one mysterious error turned a single penny into a life-changing fortune. Collectors say it's one of the most shocking stories in U.S. coin history. A mistake so small, so invisible to the untrained eye, that most people would spend it without a second glance. Yet for the lucky few who know what to look for, this is the kind of treasure that can rewrite your future. But what exactly went wrong at the Denver Mint in 1951? Why is this humble wheat cent, something most kids would have tossed into a piggy bank, now commanding a value that rivals classic cars, even houses? The truth lies in a striking error, a writ doubling, a rare form of misstrike that only appears on a fraction of coins. Under normal light, the penny looks almost ordinary. But tilt it, and the details blur. Letters seem to echo. The date wavers like a ghost. That imperfection is what makes this coin priceless. Dealers were stunned when the first examples surfaced. Some collectors whispered it was a rumor, an exaggeration, another tall tale of numismatics. But then, auction houses started to confirm it. One penny, rescued from a small stash of wheat cents, hammered for hundreds of thousands. And as the bidding war escalated, jaws dropped across the room. By the end of the night, the little copper coin had shattered expectations, soaring toward the $1 million mark. But here's the part that makes hearts race. For every known example in a collector's case, experts believe there are others still out there, buried in forgotten jars, sitting at the bottom of an old drawer, hidden in boxes of pocket change that haven't been touched in decades. This is why coin hunters search tirelessly, because every handful of pennies has the chance to hold a miracle. And with this coin, it's not just any miracle. It's one that could transform a single cent into over $1 million. One story still sends shivers through the hobby. A man in the Midwest, sorting through his late father's coin jars, pulled out a wheat penny that looked different. At first, he thought it was nothing more than damage. But under a magnifying glass, the doubled features told the truth. That same coin, after grading, became one of the finest 1951 D-Rit errors ever discovered. It went to auction, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The hammer price? More than most people make in a lifetime. Collectors call it a ghost of the mint. A mistake never meant to exist, but frozen forever in copper. Dealers will pay premiums on the spot if they catch even the faintest sign of doubling. And still, most people miss it. So how do you know if you're holding this treasure? First, check the date. 1951. With the tiny D mark beneath it for Denver. Next, study the lettering. Look at "In God We Trust." At Liberty. The doubling should leap out, especially under light or magnification. But beware, many damaged coins look similar. Only authentic RIT doubling carries this staggering value. That's why serious collectors send their finds to grading companies, locking them in protective holders that can prove once and for all whether their penny is worth 1 cent or $1 million. And here's the haunting part. Experts insist that because so many wheat cents are still in circulation, hiding in boxes and bags across America, more of these 1951 Denver rarities could be waiting to be found. That means the next one could be discovered by anyone. By someone like you. Think about it. One coin, smaller than a thumbnail, a penny you might hand to a cashier without even noticing, could hold the power to change your life forever. A single cent that carries a story of history, of mystery, of unbelievable fortune. Check your coins carefully. Look twice, even 3 times, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost vanished into the trash, just another forgotten coin from someone's pocket. But when it resurfaced, collectors couldn't believe their eyes that it was a 1946 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, and at auction, it fetched nearly $1.4 million. How could a single penny, a coin most people would never look at twice, carry the weight of a life-changing fortune? The answer lies in a mistake so small, so invisible to the untrained eye, that millions of people may have spent one without even realizing what they held. Picture this. It's the end of World War II. The U.S. Mint is scrambling, resources are thin, and every piece of copper, every grain of steel is precious. Millions of pennies were struck in 1946, ordinary, everyday cents that jingled in pockets across America. But in the chaos of production, a few slipped through the cracks, and one of those became the stuff of legend. For years, it traveled unnoticed, tossed into change jars, slid across gas station counters, lost between couch cushions. To most, it was worthless. But in the right light, under the right eye, its true identity was revealed. And when the gavel fell at auction, the entire coin world stopped breathing. But what happened next stunned even the most seasoned dealers, because this wasn't supposed to exist at all. The 1946 penny with no mint mark should have been identical to millions of others. But deep in the fields of the coin, a whisper of imperfection, a detail so tiny most collectors had never heard of it, told a different story. You see, when the dies were prepared at the Philadelphia Mint, a rare misalignment occurred. The coin struck without its expected mint mark, a subtle absence that transformed it from common change into a hidden treasure. And that tiny omission carried it straight into history. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. For decades, these coins were dismissed, overlooked, or mistaken for ordinary cents. Thousands of hands may have touched them. Most people never noticed, and yet, hidden among the dull brown pennies that pass through your hands every single day, one of them could still be waiting. At first, nothing looks special. Then your eye catches the date, 1946. And beneath it, no mint mark. Your pulse quickens. Could it be? Collectors who've seen it describe the feeling as electric. They knew instantly. They were holding something no one else in the room had. A forgotten treasure that had survived the war, survived circulation, survived time itself, only to reveal its value in the most dramatic way imaginable. And here's the part you need to know. Identifying it isn't as impossible as it sounds. Start with the date, 1946. Then look beneath the year. On ordinary coins, you'll see a small mint mark, usually a D for Denver or S for San Francisco. But on this rare variety, there is nothing. A smooth, empty space where a mark should have been. That's where so many people make mistakes. Some coins naturally lack a mint mark because they were struck in Philadelphia. What sets this one apart is the faint doubling on the numbers in the date, the sharper relief in Lincoln's profile, and the unusual toning caused by the metal mixture used in that year's chaotic production. These are the clues. These are the fingerprints of $1 million treasure. How many drawers, how many jars, how many shoeboxes full of coins sit untouched in basements and attics right now? How many times have you handed over change at a store without looking twice? That 1 second glance could mean the difference between a penny and $1 million. And the next time you empty your pockets, the next time you sort through old coins, remember this story, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1941. America was on the edge of war. Millions of Lincoln wheat pennies poured out of the U.S. Mint, ordinary copper coins that would jingle in the pockets of soldiers, factory workers, and families scraping through hard times. But hidden among them was something different, something rare, something so valuable it could one day sell for over $1 million. At first glance, the 1941 Lincoln cent looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the wheat stalks on the back, just another penny. But collectors soon discovered that certain 1941 pennies, especially those without a mint mark, carry a hidden story that stunned the entire coin world. You see, in 1941, the mint was under massive pressure. Production lines ran around the clock. Mistakes slipped through, subtle, almost invisible to the naked eye. A slight misalignment, an unusual strike, a doubling of the date that few ever noticed. And when these errors combined with the no mint mark Philadelphia issues, something extraordinary was born. One man discovered it by accident. He'd been searching through a jar of old wheat cents left by his grandfather. Dozens of coins, nothing unusual. But then one penny caught his eye. The shine was different, the details were sharper, and the date, something about the way 1941 looked didn't feel right. He almost tossed it back into the pile. But instead, he sent it to be graded. What happened next shocked even seasoned dealers. That coin, a simple 1941 no mint mark penny, was certified at the highest grade possible. Nearly flawless after more than 80 years. When it hit auction, collectors went wild. Bidding soared past hundreds, then thousands, until finally the hammer dropped. The price? Over $1.3 million. For a single penny. Think about that. A coin that might have been sitting in a piggy bank. A coin that could have been used to buy a stick of gum in the 1940s. Worth more today than most houses. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Most people walk past these pennies every single day, not realizing what they have. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million comes down to a few tiny details. Next, study the condition. The higher the grade, the higher the value. Sharp lines, clean surfaces, a bold strike. These are what separate a coin worth a few dollars from one that can fetch life-changing money. But the real secret lies in the errors. Collectors hunt for double dies, where the numbers or letters show faint shadows, as if they were struck twice. They search for misaligned dies, unusual metal flow, or even proof-like surfaces. These errors are what transform a simple coin into a numismatic legend. And here's the cliffhanger that keeps dealers awake at night. For every rare 1941 penny that's been discovered, there are surely more hiding in drawers, jars, and pocket change across America. Imagine finding one. You hold it up to the light. You see the date, 1941. No mint mark.
Crisp, flawless detail.
Suddenly, your heart races. Could this be the one? Could this be the penny that turns into $1 million miracle? Collectors whisper about these coins in hushed tones at shows and conventions. Dealers trade stories of the ones that slipped through their fingers. Families inherit jars of change, never knowing they hold a fortune. And the truth is, you may already have one. Right now, sitting unnoticed in a shoebox, a coffee can, or the back of your desk drawer. So here's what you do. Pull out your change. Search for the 1941 Lincoln wheat cent. No mint mark. Check the details. Check for doubling. And above all, check the condition. And here's the wild part. It was just a 1940 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. The kind of coin you've probably seen thousands of times in your life. The story begins in the final stretch before America entered World War II. The U.S. Mint was striking billions of Lincoln cents. Most of them were ordinary, but a few carried secrets no one noticed at the time. Some of those 1940 pennies were struck on experimental planchets, blanks that weren't supposed to be used. Others were pressed with subtle errors, invisible to the casual eye. And those tiny, hidden details are the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million. Collectors who first spotted these mistakes didn't even believe what they were seeing. Imagine holding a coin that looks so plain, so average, and realizing it's rarer than almost anything else in American history. In the early 2000s, one of these elusive 1940 no-mint mark cents surfaced at auction. It was dismissed at first as just another wheat penny, but under magnification, the truth exploded off the surface. The strike was off, the composition was wrong, and the coin was unlike any other known 1940 Lincoln cent. The room went silent. Bidders leaned forward. And then the war began. Not a war of armies, but of collectors fighting for one piece of copper. The hammer finally dropped, and the humble penny was gone, sold for nearly $1.20 million. Think about that for a second. A single coin, smaller than your thumbnail, changing someone's entire life overnight. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And here's the part most people don't realize. These coins are still out there. They weren't all found. Some are hiding in rolls, in dusty drawers, in piggy banks that haven't been touched in decades. The 1940 no-mint mark Lincoln penny you're looking for doesn't just look old. It must be struck on a planchet that isn't the usual bronze. In some cases, the coin has a faint silvery tint, showing traces of the wrong metal. In others, it's the strike itself, sharper, deeper, with doubling in the letters that prove something went wrong at the press. And here's the trick that fools most treasure hunters. Almost every 1940 Lincoln cent has no mint mark if it was made in Philadelphia. But only a tiny fraction of those carry the hidden mistakes that give them life-changing value. So if you want to know if you've got the $1 million coin, you need to look closer. Hold it under light. Study the edges. Check the weight. A real error coin will often feel just slightly off. And if you see unusual toning, doubling on the date, or a strange shine that doesn't look like ordinary copper, you may be staring at one of the rarest treasures in American coinage. So before you spend that old penny without thinking, take one last look. Check the date. Look for 1940. Make sure there's no mint mark. And then search every detail like your future depends on it. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1955. America was buzzing with Elvis on the radio, the first McDonald's opening its doors, and change jingling in every pocket. But hidden among those ordinary pennies was one of the most dramatic mistakes the U.S. Mint had ever made. A mistake so small, yet so valuable, That a single Lincoln cent could turn an everyday person into a millionaire. It looked like any other penny. Brown copper, Lincoln's face, the date stamped crisp and clear. But beneath that simple surface, something had gone terribly wrong at the mint. The presses struck the dies out of alignment. Letters doubled, details blurred, and a rare error was born. Not every coin from 1955 had it, but the few that did became the stuff of legend. At first, nobody noticed. Millions of coins left the mint. They rattled through cash registers, dropped into piggy banks, and bought candy at the corner store. Most people spent them without a second thought. But a sharp-eyed collector eventually spotted the difference. The date, 1955, didn't look right. It was doubled, almost like a ghostly shadow behind the numbers. The words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" seemed to echo, like the coin was whispering its secret. Word spread. Dealers scrambled. Collectors were stunned. The 1955 doubled die penny became an instant sensation. Suddenly, the humble penny wasn't worth just 1 cent. It was worth thousands, tens of thousands, and in the rarest, best-preserved cases, it climbed toward the unthinkable. $1 million. One of these pennies, pulled straight from circulation, crossed the auction block. Bidding was fierce, every hand in the room desperate to claim it. The price soared higher and higher until the gavel dropped at over $1 million. A coin that might have once bought a stick of gum had just changed someone's life forever. Here's the truth. Most 1955 pennies are worth only face value. 1 cent. Nothing special. But the double die variety, the error coin, is a completely different story. It doesn't just show a slight blur. It shows dramatic doubling, bold enough that even without a magnifying glass you can see the ghost-like shadow in the date and the letters. If you squint or need a microscope, it's not the one. The real $1 million variety practically shouts its identity. But here's the catch most people miss. Counterfeits flood the market. Some are altered coins, some are clever fakes. If the doubling isn't strong, if it doesn't jump out at you instantly, you're looking at the wrong coin. That's why so many hopeful treasure hunters overlook the real deal or get fooled by the wrong one. Still, every time a 1955 double die penny surfaces in pristine condition, the coin world erupts. Collectors line up, dealers write blank checks, and the news spreads like wildfire. Because each discovery is like striking gold in the most unlikely place. A drawer, a jar of old coins, a forgotten piggy bank in the attic. And think about this, one man found his in-pocket change while buying a newspaper. Another inherited a jar of pennies from his grandfather, only to discover the miracle hiding inside. Stories like these are what keep collectors awake at night, staring at every coin, hoping lightning might strike. Here's how to know for sure. Look at the date. If the numbers 1-9-5-5 look doubled, not faintly, but boldly, with each number showing a ghost twin, you might be holding history. Check the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." If they show the same doubling, you could be staring at $1 million coin. And remember, if the doubling looks weak or fuzzy, it's not the one. So tonight, when you pour out your change, look closely. Hold that penny up to the light. Because one tiny mistake at the mint in 1955 created a coin that has shocked collectors for generations, and it could shock you next. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.